Before anything else, hit the like button right now, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell because that helps a lot to keep this content reaching you and strengthens this community that follows the NBA for real. No filter, no pre-written script, and no fear of saying what needs to be said. Now, let's get to what matters. Because what's happening involving Giannis Antetokounmpo isn't just another market rumor. It isn't social media noise, and it isn't that empty cycle of speculation we've seen 1,000 times. This is different. This has sources, it has timing, it has context, and above all, it has historic weight. According to Shams Charania, one of the most well-informed journalists in the league, Giannis Antetokounmpo is ready to pursue a new destination. That could happen as soon as the NBA trade deadline, on February 5th, or in the off-season. The central point is simple and brutal. Several teams around the league have already made aggressive offers to the Milwaukee Bucks, and for the first time in a concrete way, the franchise has started listening. This doesn't come out of nowhere. It isn't a decision made during one bad week or after one specific loss. This is the result of months, actually years, of silent wear and tear. Giannis is currently out with a calf strain, his second in the same leg this season, and that alone raises an alarm. When the body starts collecting its debt, patience usually goes with it. What used to be read as isolated frustration now carries a different weight. According to what's being reported, Giannis made it clear to the Milwaukee Bucks, in private conversations, that he wants to compete for another title. And when a player of that level puts that into words, the entire organization has to look itself in the mirror. Let's be fair to the history. There's an eternal debt of gratitude between Giannis and Milwaukee. He didn't just become a franchise icon. He delivered a championship. That title against the Phoenix Suns with a historic performance in Game 6, 50 points, is something no one can ever take from him. That's etched forever. But gratitude doesn't win playoff games by itself. In recent years, the Bucks' postseason performance has collapsed. The team has lost 9 of the last 10 playoff series it's played. That isn't bad luck. That's a pattern. That's a sign of a project that stagnated while its best player stayed at his peak, or very close to it. And when you look coldly at the roster built around Giannis, it's hard to argue that it's a team ready to fight for a title. It isn't. And here comes the most uncomfortable point of all. You've got one of the 5 best players on the planet putting up absurd numbers. We're talking about roughly 28 points, 12 rebounds a night, 65% shooting from the field, and on top of that, a personal best of nearly 40% from 3. That isn't normal. That's absolute dominance. When a player produces at that level and the team is still mediocre, someone failed in the process. And that's where you hit an unavoidable crossroads. If you're Giannis, you have to ask how long it's worth insisting. If you're the Bucks, you have to decide whether it's worth keeping an idol while his trade value starts, slowly, to decline. From the franchise's point of view, there's a cold logic that can't be ignored. Keeping Giannis, getting bounced early in the playoffs or not even getting there, and then watching him leave later without a return worthy of his value would be a historic mistake. Trading him now, as painful as it is, might be the only way to secure a future that's even remotely promising. And when the league senses that kind of crack, it reacts fast. Teams with assets start calling. Teams in a hurry accelerate. And that's where names like Houston, Oklahoma City, Miami, and even the New York Knicks come in, each one with different interests, different packages, and different levels of urgency. Houston looks like an obvious candidate because of the volume of draft picks and young talent it has accumulated. Oklahoma City, then, goes without saying. What that franchise has built in terms of assets over the last few years redefines the concept of rebuilding. Miami, on the other hand, doesn't have the same stash of picks, but it has something that always matters: aggressiveness and a willingness to bet everything. As for the Knicks, it shows up more as a desire than a concrete possibility. It's speculated to be an attractive destination for Giannis, but the reality is harsh. New York doesn't currently have the asset package needed to convince Milwaukee, unless the player forces the situation, and it's not clear whether he'd be willing to go that far. In the middle of all this, one truth stands out. One of the 5 best players on the planet wants a change of scenery. And now this is official, because it's not coming from some random behind-the-scenes rumor. It's coming from someone who rarely gets it wrong. And honestly, for a lot of people inside the league, this should have happened earlier. There's also the other side of the coin, the part that makes people uncomfortable. The NBA is full of examples of stars who asked out in search of something better and ended up in worse situations. James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, Paul George. The list is long. Even names like Kevin Durant and Damian Lillard show how the grass isn't always greener on the other side. That raises a legitimate warning. Be careful what you wish for. Changing teams doesn't guarantee stability, doesn't guarantee a title, and doesn't guarantee basketball happiness. But Giannis's case has a crucial difference. He already won. This isn't someone desperate for a first ring. This is someone trying to protect what's left of his career in a competitive context. He spent more than a decade in Milwaukee. He became the face of the franchise. He gave everything he could. And in recent years, he watched the project fall apart. Injuries, wrong decisions, a poorly fitting roster, lack of flexibility. There comes a point where insisting turns into stubbornness. The numbers without him scream, too. The Bucks are 3 wins and 12 losses in games Giannis didn't play. That shows 2 things at the same time. First, how essential he is. Second, how fragile the structure is without him. According to the most recent information, this situation didn't explode overnight. It's been about 9 months of conversations, back and forth since the draft combine. Giannis, his agent, and the Bucks front office discussed scenarios, promises, and possibilities. The pitch was to compete at a high level in the East. That simply didn't happen. The team is now in an embarrassing spot in the conference. It's below 500, it's dropped drastically in recent weeks, and it's starting to look at the second half of the season more worried about the lottery than the playoffs. That's the kind of scenario that changes everything. In that context, Giannis made it clear. He loves the city, he loves the franchise, but he's ready to move on. And the Bucks, pressured by reality, started to reassess the path. Offers came in. Big offers, packages involving former All-Stars and multiple draft picks. Now, the franchise filters, compares, and sets a minimum acceptable threshold. None of this is improvised. It's the accumulation of years of decisions that brought things to this point. And from here on, the conversation changes level. Because when a player of that magnitude becomes available, even partially, the entire league has to reposition itself, including franchises that until yesterday seemed completely off the radar. When a player like Giannis Antetokounmpo enters this kind of limbo, where he's not officially on the market, but he's no longer untouchable, the domino effect is immediate. Executives start recalculating title windows, coaches begin rethinking hypothetical fits, and players, behind the scenes, start wondering where this piece could land. It changes the temperature of the entire league. What makes this situation even heavier is the timing. Giannis isn't declining. He isn't a star trying to cling to his last years of relevance. He still dominates games. He still swings series by himself. He still forces defenses to completely fall apart. When he steps on the floor, the opponent's game plan becomes survival, not containment. That's why the proposals reaching Milwaukee aren't symbolic. We're not talking about consolation packages. We're talking about teams offering multiple draft picks, young players with high ceilings, and contracts that allow real flexibility. The franchise knows it won't win a title immediately with any trade. That's impossible. But that's not the goal. The goal is to regain control, something the Bucks lost by going all in year after year. And here's a crucial point. Trading Giannis for veterans just to stay a 40-something win team would be the worst possible mistake. That builds nothing. It only prolongs mediocrity. If a trade happens, it has to hurt now to generate something solid later. Draft picks, elite young players, and patience. The blueprint is there. Oklahoma City showed exactly how it's done. It's impossible to talk about this scenario without mentioning how some specific franchises are watching all of this in silence, calculating every detail. Because there are moments in NBA history when the impossible becomes plausible. And this is one of them. From an emotional standpoint, few situations hit fans harder than the possibility of one last major swing. And that inevitably takes us to the conversation about championship windows that are closing, not for lack of talent, but because of time. The clock stops for no one. When you have a historic player still operating at an elite level, the worst decision is inertia. Waiting too long usually costs everything. And that's why this movement around Giannis isn't only about him. It's about franchises deciding whether they'll accept a slow fade or whether they'll bet everything on one more real run. The impact of a trade this big goes beyond the court. It changes narrative, changes perception, changes the psychological weight of a franchise inside the league. Suddenly, that team that looked stuck becomes a threat. Free agents start looking differently. Opponents start circling games on the calendar. The conversation shifts. And on Giannis's side, there's something many people ignore. This isn't an escape. It isn't a desperate attempt to find a shortcut. It's a career choice. He already proved everything he needed to prove in Milwaukee. He stayed longer than most would have. He delivered the biggest prize possible. Now he wants to compete for real again, in an environment that doesn't depend exclusively on him just to exist. There's also the physical factor. The injuries are starting to repeat. The body sends signals. Playing at the highest level demands context, demands help, demands less wear and tear. Carrying a flawed project on your back speeds up the end of any superstar, no matter how dominant he is. That's why, when you look at this situation with a cold lens, it makes sense for both sides. The Bucks need to restart. Giannis needs to move forward. The mistake would be pretending nothing is happening. And most importantly, this isn't a passing rumor. It's months of conversations, evaluations, and accumulated frustrations. Now the door is open, maybe not wide open, but open enough for the entire league to try to walk through it. The next few days will be decisive. Every call, every rejected offer, every sign of flexibility shifts the balance. And one thing is certain. After this, the NBA won't be exactly the same, because trades involving players at this level are never just transactions. They redefine eras. No matter where this ends up, we're looking at one of those moments that years from now everyone will remember exactly where they were when the news was confirmed. Whether it happens at the trade deadline or in the off-season, the outcome is getting closer and closer. And now I want to hear from you. Does it make sense for Giannis to move on? Are the Bucks right to finally listen to offers? Is this kind of all-in bet worth the risk for whoever decides to go for it? If you enjoyed this content, hit the like button right now, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell, because that way you won't miss any important updates, and it helps a lot for the channel to keep bringing deep analysis like this every single day. Sotto has been drawing attention for his talent and the potential to become a dominant center in the league. Standing at 7'3", he's not only a rim protector but also a player who has greatly improved offensively. The question is, would he fit into the Warriors system? We know that adapting to the NBA is not easy, especially for a player coming from an international background, but Kai has already shown that he faces challenges head-on. Since beginning his professional basketball career, he has displayed an impressive learning curve and a growth mindset that could make all the difference. The Warriors always prioritize versatile players who know how to move well without the ball and contribute on both ends of the court. And that's where Sotto could shine. He's not just a traditional center who protects the paint, but also a mobile and intelligent player capable of helping with offensive plays. The big question now is, who will give Sotto this chance? The Warriors could benefit from a young and promising center, but other teams may also be eyeing him. What's certain is that he has all the potential to grow in the NBA, as long as he gets the right opportunity. Sotto's future is promising, but he still needs to find the team and system that best suit his style. If the Warriors decide to give him a chance, it could not only strengthen the roster, but also bring a new dynamic to Golden State's front court. After all, with the Warriors' winning mentality, the sky is the limit for any young talent. So, did you like the video? Don't waste any time and hit the like button because it helps a lot with spreading the word. If you have anything to add or want to share your opinion, leave a comment. We love hearing what you think. And of course, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates about our team. See you next time, everyone. Let's go together towards another great season.